welcome back to the radio room. Going to take another look at the Heathkit HW 101. Done a little bit of work on it. Thought I'd give you guys an update. I've gotten the electrolytic capacitors changed on it. I believe there's 5. Wasn't too much of a problem. A couple little awkward spots to get into to unsolder. We'll take a look at that here in a minute. I also changed the connector out on the back, the antenna connector. I decided to go with the BNC. I know it's a little different than most, but it required no drilling. The hole for the RCA connector was exactly the right size for the BNC, so I put the BNC in there. I think it'll work just fine. One other thing I'm going to do is for the microphone connector, this has a 2-pin connector, and somewhere in here is the connector I got with the radio. I have no idea where it's at. So I've dug through everything. I'm sure it's going to turn up in right after I don't need it anymore, but anyhow, that's beside the point. So what I'm going to do is, and I think this is going to make it a little bit easier. It's not going to be original for an HW 101, but I'm going to put a 4-pin mic connector on the radio, just right in there. Just replace it with the 4-pin, and I'm going to wire this up so it matches Yaesu FT101. Reason being, I have an FT101, and the microphone I use for it is a high impedance microphone, and this requires a high impedance microphone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire this up just exactly the same as an FT101. It's not going to be that difficult. I will take a ring off of a chassis mount SO239 to give myself a little tab here, and one of the pins will actually be connected directly to that. This microphone, you have 2 pins. One's the audio from the microphone, the other is the PTT, and the collar, or the jack itself, the body of the jack, and the body of the connector actually works as the ground. I'm not going to do that with this one. I'll have one of the pins as the actual ground, and that pin will just come out, go right to a collar solder lug that will be right up against the outside of here, so it'll still be grounded right to the chassis of the radio. It'll just go through the connector instead of being the connector. So we'll get that done. Cleaned up the radio a little bit. I still got to kind of wipe off the front a little bit, but let's go ahead and move to the inside of the radio. Hopefully the glare isn't too bad on this. So I did change the shiny spot right here is the shiny end of a capacitor. I did change that electrolytic, and there's one right over here. Right there. I'm sure you can see it. It's probably right behind this. And then there's some little electrolytics down in here that I changed out. One right there. Yeah, I think there's should be one down in here. Changed the electrolytics out. Now the Mylars and the other capacitors that came in the kit I haven't changed those yet. Reason being is that I didn't want to do a lot of work on this radio when I haven't even turned the thing on. Let's make sure it's going to work before I start changing a bunch of components, because if it doesn't work after doing all that work, what was the reason that it's not working? Either it didn't work before, or did I wire something wrong or do something wrong while I was doing all the changing? So I think it's important to make sure the radio works. If it does, and then if it works, I may or may not change those other capacitors. I did want to change the electrolytics. These Mylars that are down in here, they're not cracked. They don't look really deformed or anything like that. So they might be just fine anyhow. So if the radio works and I decide to change them, and then when I come back and the radio doesn't work, I know it's something that I did. So I know where to look. If I change them all, the radio doesn't work. Like I said, did it not work before? Did it not work because I did something wrong in there? Makes it a lot harder to diagnose anything. So I'm going to make sure the radio works before I do really much more work on it. Like I said, I basically just changed the electrolytics, changed the antenna connector on the back of the radio to a BNC instead of the RCA. You'll also notice right here, this might look a little weird. I did put the new silicone belts or O-rings or whatever you want to call them, but they didn't fit tight enough to turn the two variable capacitors, particularly this one, the forward one here. So you kind of see some yellow in there. That is some rubber bands that I've also put in there to help it grip. That's, I'm hoping, not going to be my long-term solution right there. And I did not change this string here. It's working fine. I'm just going to leave it be. Especially after I changed these and these were slipping. I did not want to take a chance of the third belt, which this is a little bit bigger size, slipping as well. So I've ordered some different belts that say they work for an HW 101. I think they're actually just rubber, so they may degrade just like the other ones, but heck, the other ones lasted 40-something years and still worked. But I'll change those out after when I have them in and everything, and hopefully not have to use the rubber band, because the rubber band ain't gonna last long. I did clean up the bearings a little bit on this one to try and free it up a little bit, but everything is working right now as far as back and forth, but you can see a lot of movement in those belts. I think that's a lot of the rubber band doing the work there. So I'll, when I get those other ones in, hopefully they're just a little bit tighter, or maybe they're just a little more, not as smooth or slick. I don't know. We'll see how that works. But these two capacitors right here have to stay meshed with, in sync with each other. If one slips and the other one doesn't, then this control is not going to be effective the way it should be. So we'll work on that. Let's see what else I've done. Of course, I've gone through and kind of washed everything, wiped down all the boards, got in there with a little brush, and kind of brushed all the dust loose and everything inside of there, vacuumed it out real good. Let's see, I've cleaned the tube sockets, just a little bit of deoxit on the legs of the tubes, and then put them in there and kind of worked them a little bit. Also cleaned all the potentiometers as far as controls, the volume, the RF gain, whatnot, the slide switches on the front that are right here, for selecting your function as far as the PTT, Vox, or Cal, and the meter switch. Clean those up with some deoxit, just kind of worked them back and forth. I still need to do the probably clean the side potentiometers that go down the side of the radio, such as the zero control, the bias, box delay, box sense, anti-trip. I haven't done those yet because when I try to do a little bit of an alignment of the radio, I didn't want to mess with those quite yet. They're probably set where they pretty much need to be. If I clean them, I'm going to have to work them back and forth while the deoxit's in there, and I might not have them set where they were. So when I get to the point, like when I'm going to set the bias, I will spray it, work it a little bit, try to get it close, and then while I have the radio operational, I can set that bias right where it needs to be. That's about what I've done with the radio so far. Oh, I did pull the 6146s out, clean the sockets on those, and the plate connections. Clean those off real good. Make sure they were doing okay. And I think right now we're pretty much kind of to the point where, let's see if this thing's going to turn on. Let's see if it's going to receive anything. I'm not going to do a transmitter test yet. First off, I gotta change the microphone connector before I have a PTT. So I mean, I guess I could use tune just to to test it, but I want to go through some other things before I get to that point. So I got it through a dim bulb tester right now. I only have about 80 watts on the bulbs, so they might shine a little bright. I don't think you'll be able to see those, but I'm going to be watching those when we turn this on. I should get a quick flash, and the bulbs should dim down a little bit. They might be a little brighter than normal. I guess I could put some bigger bulbs in there. Because this right here, if I'm remembering correctly, I think the 12.5 volts, 13 volts, whatever you want to call it, for the filaments and the lights, which they kind of have a voltage division scheme going on. So the bulbs are 6.3 volts, even though it's feeding 12.6 to the back connector. Oh, another thing I did do is I did cut back and resolder that connector on the power cable where they were cracked. You've seen that in the previous video. So we'll see. Like I said, the filament's drawing somewhere around, or filament circuitry, I think is somewhere around 5 amps. I think I've seen that somewhere. So there's roughly, say, 50-60 watts of power being drawn on this thing just for the filaments and the light bulbs. So I only got 80 watts in there. They might be a little bit bright, but I'll try to watch them real close, make sure they don't get really bright like there's a direct short in the radio. So let me go ahead and I think I'll do a picture-in-picture here. So you can see the front of the radio. I do have a speaker hooked up to it. It's just a 4-ohm speaker, but it's the only one that had an RCA plug on the end of it right now until I get an 8-ohm set up for that. But it should work okay as far as at least seeing if this thing's going to have some audio come out. So let me let's go ahead and do this. Oh, I do have an antenna hooked up to it right now. So if there's anything out there, we might hear it. So let's check our controls right here. I'm in USB. That's probably a good place to start. We're in the 80 meter band. I'm going to make sure the levels are down all the way. Pre-select driver selectors, basically all the way counterclockwise. Final, we don't really need to worry about right now. We're not going to do a transmitter test. We're in PTT. No microphone connected, so it should not go into transmit. Meters in ALC, so that's not really going to make much difference since we're not going to do a transmit test. I am going to have the RF gain turned all the way up and in the single sideband crystal position, filter position. In fact, I'm not even sure this has the CW filter in it. So this switch probably, when you're in the down CW position, it probably doesn't even receive. So we want to be in the single sideband position. Okay, I am in current limit right now, so we can just do a test to make sure this thing is not got a direct short, and I'll turn it on, and then we'll see what that does real quick. You cannot see the dim bulb tester is just right over there. You can't see it right now, but I'm going to keep an eye on that. The PS23, or I'm sorry, I think that's an HP23B power supply that's in one of the previous videos of recapping and changing the components in it, is hooked up. It's in the high voltage output, so we have our 300 volts DC instead of the 230, which is what the HD101 wants. So I think we're just ready to turn the switch on and see if this thing's going to come to life. Like I said, I'm going to monitor the bulbs, but I'm not really expecting anything to come on with the bulbs in line, just because I think it's going to drop the voltage enough with the bulbs that I have in line to prevent everything from heating up enough to actually start. So this is just basically turn it on and make sure it's not directly shorted. So here we go. Okay, and the bulbs are fairly bright, but they're dimming down, so I'm guessing we got some capacitors that are charging, probably some some filaments that are starting to heat a little bit and get some more resistance, and it keeps dimming. So I'm going to go ahead and go into bypass because I'm pretty sure we don't have a direct short. And the needle did go to full deflection. We should start seeing that coming down. And it should start hearing something before long. We do have a dial lamp that's on, so you can kind of shadow that. Oh, I'm starting to hear some static. The bulb for the meter does look like it's burned out, so I'll have to get another one of those. It should be in like a number 44 bulb, I believe. We do have static. I see filaments. So we're on the 80 meter band right now. It's probably maybe just a little early for 80 meters. Let's see if our driver pre-selector will peak at some point. So listen to the static. It does have a peak. So that's a good sign. Let's see if the I do have needle deflection as well, so it looks like the S meter is probably working. I'm going to adjust the RF gain down. Now the meter might go up, but let's see if the sound goes down. And that's pretty much acting right like it should. We'll bring that back up. Okay, my antenna is not tuned for 75 meters, but let's see if it does anything. So I'm going to go to lower sideband. Still have static. That's a good thing. Start tuning here. You know, let's since I'm right by one of the hundreds here, this does have a calibrator in it, so let's see if the calibrator is working. Let's make sure that's the calibrator. That is the calibrator we were hearing. Okay, so either the radio is still needing to warm up, or we might have our dial off a little bit, or the calibrator's off just a little bit, because I'm showing right about 3810, 3808 maybe for the crystal calibrator, and it does peak up there around probably S9 plus 20. So that's either the very strong calibrator or our S meter might be a little off. Okay, so let me go back to PTT and we'll see it. Oh, I hear voices. Alright, so we got life. That's showing a 10 over, nearly 20 over signal right there. Okay, let's move up to, let's check another band. I'm a little high on frequency here. This is 40 meters. We do have voices, and mind you, the antenna tuner, I think the last frequency I had it on was like in 20 meters, so it's probably tuned for 20 meters. So it sounds like 40 is working. Let's go to 20. I already hear something, some voice. Let's go to right mode. Slow scan. Alright, so that seems to be working. I don't know if start getting up in these bands here, we might not be hearing much. A little DX on 15 meters. So that seems to be working. Go up to 10. I'm not sure we're going to find much here. I'll turn the calibrator on. Definitely want 10 meters for it. I think I need to clean this switch again. Calibrator doesn't always come on. Think calibrator? Not on. That might need to be cleaned some more. Calibrator. So we do have signal, we do have reception on 10 meters. The 28.5 to 2900. Let's check the. Okay, that band's working. 29. I'm not finding a peak on this band. We might have a band not working. I hear the calibrator, but it's kind of everywhere. A little bit right there.
but I can't really peak the band, so this band might need a little bit of alignment or something. Let's go to the last one here. This is the 29.5 and up. I can find a peak on that one. That's a good sign. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm going to go back to the other band. It's there, but it's not very strong, so I'm thinking maybe that band needs some alignment. It does seem like it's kind of working, though. So we might just have to look at that. That'd be the 29 megahertz, 29.0 to 29.5 megahertz, which probably wouldn't get used much on this radio anyhow. There's no AM, there's no FM, so that's pretty much AM and FM. Well, mostly AM and then maybe some sideband in there, but I don't think that's a band that would be worth very much. So let's go back down here to 75 real quick. I barely got there's zero volume. This is maybe 9 o'clock position, and off is close to 7 o'clock. So it's got lots of volume. If I can find anything on 75.
I've been down that road, and I said the main thing about a pool, and you may agree, is the longer you have it, it seems like the less you use it, but you're still...
Okay, so I'm going to say the HW101 is receiving. It looks like it might need a little bit of tweaking here and there, maybe on the receives, particularly on that one band. Got to get the microphone connector changed out and maybe run through some of the calibration and alignment on it, and then test the transmitter. But I'm confident we're going to keep making progress on this radio. Like I said, I don't think there was very much wrong with it to begin with. I just wanted to refresh it a little bit, clean it up, and see if I can't get it back on the air. But it seems like it's what I'm doing. Hey, let's check one other thing. I don't think this has the CW filter in it. Give this a second to warm back up. It's a tube radio. It's not instant on. Okay, I'm going to put it in CW and see if everything goes away or if it just gets narrow. I'm going to guess we do not have a CW filter in. Which I could flip the radio over and look. They're on the bottom. They'd be stacked right on top of each other if they were. And I don't remember seeing one, so. Alright. So I think the next step I'm going to do is change out this microphone connector. Get it set up to run basically the same pin out as the FT101. That way I can just switch the microphone between the two relatively easy. If this ends up being, it's probably going to get a permanent setup in a spot in the radio room. I might build a breakout box that I can plug the microphone into and then switch between the 101 or the 101. Just whether it's FT or HW. And operate it from that way. So thanks for stopping by. I just thought we'd take a quick look, see if this thing even worked. Had never even turned the thing on. That's the first time the power supply has supplied the radio, and first time since I've had it. I mean, it's been turned on. So I'm glad to know it works. I think we just need to give it a little TLC and go through everything. Make sure it's kind of going to be what it's going to be, and then we'll get this thing on the air and make some contacts with it. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.